21 people.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is Victoria, Dr. Victoria Nalule. I'm the founder and executive director of the African Energy and Minerals Management Initiative, an NGO registered in Uganda, but with collaborations with other different African countries, including in Kenya, South Africa, South Sudan, Ghana, Nigeria, Namibia, just to mention but a few. So our organization, we do lots of projects, but I note this is a voluntary initiative. So it's not a paid initiative, and everyone on our team is just inspired because they are passionate about the energy and mining sectors in Africa. There's no pay whatsoever. So before I start, I would like to briefly introduce our Aemi team. And in this regard, I would like to call upon Mr. Kennedy to introduce some of our Aemi people who are online right now. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Victoria, and welcome everyone to the African Energy and Minerals Management Initiative Mentorship launch. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the Aemi team, and I'll give each of them an opportunity to introduce themselves, to let us know their names and what they do at Aemi. So to begin with, I'm Kennedy Chege, and I'm the Aemi representative for South Africa and Kenya as well. So for the team, they will introduce themselves in this order. Firstly, we will have Ms. Chioma Basil, and then CC Joanne, and Sarah Kagabo, Jocelyn Omondi, and Aili Shihama. Thank you. Chioma?
Morning, everyone. My name is Chioma Vivian Basil, and I'm the Aemi representative here in Nigeria. And I also contribute to planning of the mentorship program. Thank you.
CC? CC? Okay, we will move to Sarah. Hello, Sarah,
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I am Sarah Kagabo. I'm the legal counsel, deputy manager, deputy project manager.
Now we move on to Jocelyn Omondi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jocelyn Omondi, and I am the Director for Legal Aid at Aemi.
Deputy manager.
Oh, Sarah, I think.
Morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. My name is Aili Shihama, and I'm the Deputy Country Director for Aemi in Namibia. And I'm also one of the coordinators for the Aemi mentorship program.
Thank you very much, team. Back to you, Dr. Victoria.
Thank you. Enjoy the event.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. And I note that those are just a few people because it's a big team. They all volunteer for Aemi. We do all volunteer. So if any of them comes to you looking for a job or project, just know you'll have a passionate person who's going to deliver. And I also would like to congratulate Ms. Jasmine Omondi, Ailey, and Zach, and Kofi, who are also part of Aemi. They graduated yesterday with an LLM in oil, international oil and gas law and policy. So that's our young team. Most of them are in school, others are doing PhD like Kennedy. Me, I finalized my PhD, others have just finalized their masters. So it's just a team with different people from different countries. I think they forgot to mention their countries, but it's a team of different people from different African countries. So the mentorship program was basically inspired by the various messages we got from the young Africans from different African countries who really wanted to know more about that sector, energy and mining sectors. So in most cases, I used to get many messages I could share with Jocelyn and a few of my colleagues, but then we realized that we cannot do it on our own, yet we have experts in the sector who can do more, inspire more, and also motivate more. So this launch is basically a way of showing the young people that they can make it, they can do it, they shouldn't give up. It's a struggle, but you will eventually make it in the sector. And myself, I wouldn't say I've done a lot, but at least on the panel, we have some of the most experienced people who are celebrated, people who are respected, and we believe with their experience, with their knowledge, with their kind words, we shall all be inspired. And in this regard, I'd like to welcome Mr. NJ Ayuk. I actually have his book here, you know. I also get inspired. I'm like, I have to work hard and make sure how can I make business out of the energy sector. So I read his books, I read his interviews, and I just want to be inspired. And I also want other people to be inspired by his work. So Mr. Ayuk is the founder and executive director of the African Energy Chamber. I'm sure you're all aware of the African Energy Chamber. And I think you've had a copy of their recent Energy Outlook, 2020 Energy Outlook. So they're doing a lot of work with respect to the energy sector. But besides that, he was also recognized as one of the most influential men, top 10 influential men in Africa. And he has done a lot in the energy sector. He has emphasized the need for all Africans to have access to electricity, which is a good thing because we all should be worried about energy poverty. I note that I also wrote a book on energy poverty, so I appreciate the challenges we face on the continent. And besides that, he's also one of the people we look up to, and we believe that if we can make it and lead a big law firm in South Africa that is operating in different African countries, that is operating internationally, then that means we can also make it in the sector. So in this regard, I would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. NJ Ayuk. And I hope you all get inspired, and feel free to send in your questions because he's going to stay with us for some time. So use the Q&A, ask him whatever questions you want. Use this opportunity because we want everyone to live when they feel that they can make it in the sector. So Mr. Ayuk, I welcome you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you for your kind words. I think, I hope I get to, the good Lord calls me before you, so I'll have you speak at my funeral. That'll be better. so now you know you got a long time to live. And I am more thankful to join not just this team, but the other panelists and guests that have been invited to be here, and so many that are watching this. I believe we are being confronted with amazing times and really trying times for a lot of young people. But in spite of all this, there's always some kind of hope. And there is always something which we say, what can we get out of this? And what is more inspiring is to see Mrs. Omondi and her colleague graduating with an LLM in oil and gas law. What is more inspiring is Kennedy pursuing his PhD. And what is more inspiring is me getting to sit here and having to talk to my big sister, Muriel Tulikima, somebody whom I think most African women under 50 do not know what it takes to walk into that shoe as a big sister in some of the big companies around this continent, whether it is working as a top geologist and engineer and working in those rooms and really distinguishing yourself based on competence, and always seeing how difficult it is for women in our industry, and it's something that we all should be ashamed of, that women continue to be the last hired and the first fired. And let's not even talk about promotion. Muriel has walked those shoes. I read about her before anybody read about me. And she has done so much. And it's one of those people whom whenever you call, she would come. And today she is a friend, she's a sister, she's somebody whom I look up to. And so Muriel, it is an honor, and I really thank you and thank you for joining there. And Victoria, you know, you guys have become what you call the new drum majors for justice, not just about justice for yourself, but justice for our people. There's so many Africans that whether we talk energy poverty, whether we talk local content, whether we talk about really getting Africans being part of the oil and gas industry, it starts with us. It starts with you guys. And everybody always asks me, how the hell did you end up in oil and gas? I have to always explain myself, because most of my friends I went to law school with, and I will tell you guys a little secret, and we got professors here. I never took an oil and gas class in law school. You guys have probably know, you guys probably went into an oil and gas classes. I never. I hated oil companies. I hated corporations. I hated anything that had to do with them. I went to law school to be a human rights lawyer. When I was done, I ended up in litigation. I think working with the United Nations in actually Sudan gave me a wake-up call and said, how do you change Africa? How do you become part of our continent? And I started to see that most of our problems we had in the continent was something which had to do with natural resources. And then I went back to school. I had an MBA, and I started thinking economics. And I started taking any oil and gas short course I would find. And I was very lucky to meet great people from the United States. They hired me in an oil company, and they gave me, I was thinking one of the best gifts in my life was a great training. And having had to do that, I think as a lawyer, one of the key things we always trained is go find the law, research, write, be inquisitive, ask questions, be Socratic, never take, there's no answer that is right, keep probing in. And after doing all of that, I decided I worked for a law firm, and I said I was going to build my own law firm, because I felt we could really be able to change things and do things differently. We could still run law firms and run consulting firms and run energy firms where we still had our own values, where you could still make money and still do good. There's nothing wrong making money. There's nothing wrong serving the community. There's nothing wrong driving issues that you believe that could really have an impact. And that came on to me when we talked about our generation. What is our generation of Africans doing to really take Africa to the next level? What is our generation of Africans doing to be those drum majors for justice? To really look at things and say, there is some kind of righteous wind in our backs. But you know, I was always inspired by Dr. Martin King Jr. when he said the arc of a moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. But if you take it a little step further, it doesn't bend by itself. It bends because people like us get up every day. You who are watching, and everybody on this panel gets up every day and say, we're going to shape it. It doesn't bend by itself when we don't get up and we look at the industry and still look at it and say, well, if we use our legal skills, not just to get out there and do a contract, but think about the big picture and how we can shape those contracts and how we can really drive some kind of positive issues. It doesn't just bend by itself when we don't get out there and really look at and face whether we're dealing with governments or we're dealing with corporations and really sometimes drive issues. issues that matters every day. Climate change, big issue of the day. It's going to affect our continent so much. We as lawyers will still have a role to play. We do have a role to play in making sure that whether we're talking decarbonization or energy poverty, we have to find a place where they all go hand in hand. Africa, all of us can really drive that. I always say what works in Lagos doesn't work in London. What works in New York doesn't work in Namibia. But when you have this debate today, and I think this is one of the biggest debate we find our times with, the climate debate. And somebody would say, well, NJ, you work with all these oil companies, you probably don't agree with that. I said, no, I do agree with climate change. I think anybody who walks in the room, tell you climate change, it's a hoax or it's some nonsense, kick them out of the room. You stop that discussion. But also there's something which I also understand. I understand energy poverty. I grew up in a little small town in Africa, and in Cameroon, for a matter of fact, we didn't have much. I understand what it means to use firewood to cook. I understand what it means to use charcoal to grill. I understand what it means to have maybe lights once for 1 hour or twice, 2 hours a day. I do understand that. I do understand that I have a lot of industries around the continent that can't even function. I do understand that in a continent that's going to be 1.2 billion people, with already about 2/3 of them not having any problem to electricity, it is a problem. But our generation doesn't just need electricity. We need sustainable electricity, electricity that can power our houses, electricity that can drive our industry, that can create jobs, and that can give so many young people that don't have a chance to get an LLM or a PhD. These young people can also have a future. I do understand when a young woman in Europe or America bleeds and say, climate change is ruining me. But that young girl in Europe or America is just as beautiful as my little sister in Uganda or in Cameroon or in Lagos or in Accra, and they should not be taken for granted. But their voices also should be heard, because that poverty that we see in Africa has to be taken into consideration. So, Doctor, your group and so many here, we stand at a pivotal place where we can really help shape that debate, shape that dialogue, because we do understand this twin evil of climate change and energy poverty. But also, no matter whatever form of energy we choose, we do have an African problem, a problem where we still have to deal with the lack of an enabling environment to even invest in any forms of energy. That's our job. Part of what I think we've been very successful with our law firm doing is sometimes advising states. They don't listen most of the times, but that's okay. You keep going ahead and trying to create that enabling environment, trying to create that legislation that is forward thinking and that addresses the future. That is our job as lawyers. That is our job as lawyers, to really bring to bear what the industry is dealing with today. But also, I also think that we as lawyers, we do have a chance to use private practice to really drive up the issues. We started with 4 lawyers. It was tough. Nobody would give us a client. We would not even be able to get the interviews. The industry was different. Most of the decisions were made in Houston and in London. Most of the international lawyers we talked to were some of the most condescending, you know what, I won't mention it on this environment, but they were very condescending. They treated us like less than. They gave you every reason not to be in the business. They give you, and when you talk to even some lawyers from London or the US or from foreign jurisdictions, they treated you as somebody who was less than or didn't go to law school. But now the question you got to ask yourself was, is that okay? Would I just get into this self-pity? But a lot of us have to understand something, that somebody's perception of us doesn't have to become our reality. Keep pushing, keep driving, be stubborn, be stubborn. Don't let them push you. Don't let them make you not believe in what you're doing, because you're as good as anybody that gets up there. And we kept pushing. We kept driving. But we demanded more of ourselves. And that's what I always say about the people that have walked through our firm, and hundreds of them who've gone around, whether it is through training or right now they work in different jobs, whether it's as legal counsels for corporations or governments or judges. We kept believing that we are going to, there's a certain sense that they're always going to judge you. But when they judge you, that's okay. But you fight back with excellence. You fight back with good work. You fight back with getting that contract done well. You fight back with really improving and growing your critical thinking skills. Because that art of improving your critical thinking skills, that art of saying every day, you gotta get it right. That art of thinking outside the box, that act of challenging everything that this normalcy that they've created for us. There's always that joke that you say, if you ask a mathematician, one-on-one, they say 2. You ask a lawyer one-on-one, you say, what answer do you want? That's okay. You should accept that. That has to become our reality. And I think that reality gave us a chance where, as we're a very small law firm, we could get invited to work on some of the most complex oil and gas transactions you found in the continent. And you walk in that room with young Africans who could stand tall with their colleagues everywhere. So that says that we can do it. It is possible. And of course, we made a lot of money too. And I don't, I'm one of those who say, I don't have a problem with anybody accusing me of making money. Free market capitalism is not a bad thing. It's African. So I think when people come tell you, you shouldn't make money, tell them to get out of your house. They're lying. There's nothing wrong in offering, in walking around there with the Gucci bag. I always say my wife needs new shoes. So you need to be happy, and you need to be ready to make more money. And why do I say that? You're worth it. You deserve it. You've earned it. You're working hard. And if you don't inspire that within our young people, that they have a right to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, they have the right to be the next Elon Musk, that they should really strive to do big things, then we fail in them, because we have that inspiration. And I think one of the key things which we've been able to do with our law firm, and I'm very proud of it, is that from our law firm, we have 16 other law firms. Those 16 other law firms came from people who have served with our law firms. They've opened law firms in the United States, in Europe, in Equatorial Guinea, in Nigeria, in Cameroon, in South Africa. And even with that, we still create a network where we still support them. Because the idea is not to have everybody in one house, is to have people in many houses, and you really build an ecosystem to drive up other people to succeed. Because don't tell me success is not in our race or our community. I think we today in 2020, our generation of Africans, we have a chance to shock the world. The only problem is with us if we're willing to get out there. And that's one of the things which I'm really, really proud of, what you guys are doing, driving an amazing network, bringing this industry, whether it is oil, whether it is gas, whether it is renewables, all forms of energy, to help our people, because we do need it. We can make oil and gas, renewables, and build that energy mix for Africa and really make it cool. Today, I leave you with this. You got more young people who would prefer to work for Google or Amazon and not Chevron or Exxon. That tells you of the changes happening in the energy sector. But now with that change that is happening in the energy sector, what role do we play as Africans? Do we want to be those change makers? Do we want to be those drivers of change? Do we want to be part of that energy industry in the future? We're not wedded to oil and gas. The oil and gas industry, let's be honest, never welcome Africans. It never had an open door for Africans. It never said, Africans, you are part of this industry. Many of us have had to fight to localize that industry and make it an African industry. The renewables industry, let's not act as if the renewables industry is going to be an industry that says, oh my God, we shall overcome, everybody comes in there, it's all Africans. No. When was the last time you saw a renewable energy play that they gave you? They said there is some good finance for African companies. No, it's not free. So the new renewables industry is going to be tougher, more difficult, more discriminatory than the oil and gas industry. It's one thing to talk about, we want you in, but how are we going to do it? So you have to fight for that new renewables industry to include all of us. You have to fight for that energy industry of the future. So I think we join with you to really make this. And if us as Africans, we have to get there by really driving our young people. So thank you so much. I'm sorry I went over my time, but I really look forward to being part of this. And thank you so much for having me. And it's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayuk. And just to mention, I think yesterday I sent to your firm an article with respect to the street light effect that we mostly suffer in the energy sector, whereby we've tried to focus on a few things and we forget about the things that matter. So I sent to the African Energy Chamber my article, and it's true. Renewable energy, we need renewable energy, but we have to think about the justice in the renewables. How are those companies operating? Because in that article, I gave an example of my experience in Tanzania. But anyway, that will be for next time. And then we have this book here for energy transitions, which was authored by different young Africans. So you can be inspired. And then our own Professor Damilola has written about extractives industry in Africa. And obviously, billions at play. So the young people out there, you see, we are trying our best to shape the industry, reshape the industry, and not to be affected by the street light effect. So you can do it. And in terms of business, obviously, we also have to look out for ourselves. So the Aemi team has already made its proposal so that we can be inspired by Mr. Ayuk on how to make money out of the industry. I call upon Ms. Jocelyn Omondi to take us through the first session of the mentorship.
Thank you very much, Dr. Victoria. As Dr. Victoria has mentioned, my name is Jocelyn Omondi. I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and I'm also the Director of Legal Aid at Aemi. So I will introduce the speakers for this session. We will limit the time for each speaker to about 5 minutes, and so that we can have a more engaging conversation at the Q&A section. So just to start, John Maxwell stated one of these quotes, that one of the greatest values of mentors is the ability to see ahead what others cannot see and to help them navigate a course to their destination. So that is exactly what this mentorship program is about, and we encourage all of you to learn from this session. So our first speaker will be Miss Insaf Insaks. So she is a recruitment and peer mentor officer at the MasterCard Foundation. The second speaker will be Professor Volker Robin. He is a prolific professor at the CPMLP University of Dundee. Our third speaker will be Miss Merily Tolekima. She is an internationally renowned oil and gas professional. She is also a senior petroleum engineer, and she is a global energy consultant. Our fourth speaker for this session is Professor Damilola, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor at Afe Babalola University in Nigeria. And our last speaker for this session will be Mr. Fisto Bright, who is an oil and gas business analyst. So I will welcome Ms. Insaf to this panel discussion, and her question will be based on, from a recruiter's perspective, are there any emerging skills that recruiters are currently seeking? And what advice would she give to current students, recent graduates, and aspiring individuals on how to place themselves in seeking job opportunities in their career paths. So welcome, Ms. Insaf.
Jocelyn, Ms. Insaf has kindly requested whether she could speak second. She's having some difficulty connecting to the link, but she's right now.
Okay, no problem. Is Professor Volker available?
Yes, I am.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. Then we will start with you instead.
Thank you. This is great. Thank you very much for the invitation and the inspiring keynote speech as well. And I think what has come through very clearly is 2 points, and I would like to highlight them or expand on them from this perspective of particularly of education. That is obviously my main focus here at the University of Dundee and the Center for Energy, Petroleum, Mineral Law and Policy, which has been, and I'm proud to say this, engaged with Africa for a very long time. And Victoria knows all about this. And I mean, we still are. And we have been the first in engaging with African students, building up capacity, and will continue to do so, because the future of energy is in Africa. I think there's no doubt about this. We already see these mega trends of the center of consumption moving to Africa and Asia, but long term, actually, it will be Africa. So the future of Africa, of energy, is in Africa. And by that token, the future of the climate as well, because as we all know, you cannot combat climate change effectively without reducing the carbon emissions from the energy sector. So our mission here at the center is to provide students from all over the world, but particularly from Africa, with the capacity and the capabilities they need to make a difference, to be leaders in this fantastic field. And that's at the postgraduate level. So people come with very good skills, and I'm proud to say that the Nigerians and others that I teach have very good skills already from the undergraduate education, but then we offer the specific expertise and learning in energy law. And then there are also many of those take on very high-powered positions, fortunately, large alumni community. We have, and some actually go then to do on PhDs. I have about 6 from Africa, so that's a very enriching environment. Substantively, I want to stress 2 things. First, the energy transition is a global phenomenon, so we are moving towards a world that is less carbon producing energy, but renewables. That is the great trend of the future. And capacity needs to build up desperately. I think there's no doubt about this, and we're doing this. But at the same time, I think I hasten to add that this transition will take into account the different starting points of countries, and there is no doubt, therefore, that there is, for the foreseeable future, a role to play for fossil fuels. Oil and particularly gas. And it may be actually a matter of, it may actually be time sensitive, because at some point the market will move. But it's very important, therefore, to be at this point in time fully aware of the potential to make a difference through skills in both these sectors, both the traditional fossil fuels and the renewable sector. This will be a competitive industry, that is true, but there are huge amounts of money that will be available, particularly also international. So this whole industry has always, as the speaker earlier said, has been international from its inception, but it is now migrating into the economies of every state, and the opportunities lie also in grasping the investment that will come from international organizations. That's very important. And they will particularly be interested in securing energy access. And that goes back to the point that was made earlier. I'm currently engaged in the process of ensuring that healthcare facilities in Nigeria have access to clean energy and electricity, reliable. And we all know that's not a given. That needs to be secured. It's an enormously rewarding task to work on. And it's, of course, for the lawyers involved as well, an economically attractive one. But there is a lot of potential in the respect, in the fact that energy access as a parameter of global energy policy is really moving up the agenda. So people should use this, and the more skills you have as you enter the job, the easier it is for you to make a difference. And I think on that basis, I think I would conclude my initial remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for keeping time. So just a takeaway from your discussion, from your teaching experience and from various universities, what advice would you give students on how to remain relevant in their career path after completing their studies?
After completing their studies, the undergraduate studies, you mean? Yeah, they should come to us. They should come to Dundee. I think we are, and I say this not lightly, but actually because we really know what the students need, and particularly African ones. And our large alumni community testifies to this. So if you invest the time to be here and to learn more, then I think this will pay off. And obviously, I've been in education, higher education all my life, so I may be a bit biased, but I think this higher education is the greatest, in my understanding, the greatest engine of social change that mankind has ever invented. When you look back at my family, I'm the first in hundreds of generations to go to university. This is in Europe as well. It's not it's a very recent phenomenon that everybody can, and it has enabled me to do this fantastic work throughout my life. So education, and our job at this point is to build up the capacity. But I should mention as well that we work very closely with African universities, and we're eager, and Victoria knows about this, to expand this network. But it's clearly not just Dundee, but it's a network of universities that's building up this educational capacity for people, and do make use of it. The more you know, the easier it is to make a difference.
Thank you very much for that discussion. What a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful conversation. So, Ms. Insaf, are you ready to connect so that we can continue with you? Ms. Insaf? Okay. I think then we'll move to Miss Marilee Tolekima. So as I mentioned earlier, she's a global energy consultant, and I welcome her to give some remarks.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here and to see what your group is doing, because that's really what we need. We have to have this new generation of, people involved in the oil and gas industry, in the African oil and gas industry, taking initiative, because that's an important step to get, this industry to be sustainable in Africa. So just to, share my own experience, when I started in the industry back 25 years ago, it looks really different, 25 years ago, yes, Angie, that's how long, I've been in the industry. And, being a woman and a woman of color, it was not always easy, because, the industry was really dominated by men and Caucasian men. And so I really had to find my place, in this system and in this, in this industry that didn't have people that look like me. And it was also at a very difficult time, because like I always tell people, it was actually for me love at second sight for, going into this industry, because I was, coming from a tragedy, lost my dad who was, doing everything for me. And I went into this industry because I really had a need to, to continue and earn money. And so I started really as, coming as a victim and really with a big need. And it didn't work very well because even if, I was in my country, which is Gabon, and it's a French-speaking country, everything was done in English, especially in the department where I was working, the petroleum engineering department. So I had to communicate with people who actually were speaking a different language. And because of that, because my language skills in English were, it was really poor, I was not considered for any, project or anything. I was actually given all the tasks that nobody wanted, even if, I was, even if I had a degree that actually meant that I had the skills. So I had to really fight, to get where I am today. And so started with a victim mentality because I just realized that I was not treated like everybody, and started to think, okay, it's because I'm a woman, it's because I'm Black, it's because I'm this and this. Really coming into this industry really defeated. And I came across a mentor, an American lady who actually saw the potential in me and helped me to change, my mindset and understand that if I was there, it means that I had value, it means that I could learn, and it means that I could compete as well in the process. So that's what I did. I really started to put myself out there, learn the language, raise my hand to be involved in those projects and learn in the process, because that's something that I really want all the people who are going to join this program to understand that it starts with you. You have to put the work, and you have to get as well those people who are actually gonna help you through your journey, those mentors that are gonna help you to direct you in the right direction and focus on the right thing, because it's a very it's a very big industry, so you can easily get lost. So you have to make an effort to get and connect with people who are going to be able to support you, who are going to be able to guide you. So it's going to be mentors. It's going to be also find sponsors. Sponsors are people who are going to be able to speak for you when you're looking for something particular, especially when it comes down to promotion. But to get to this point, you have to be visible. You have to show that you are competent, and so hence making sure that you deliver and you are visible, you network, and you put yourself out there. So that's what I did to really push myself and learn wherever I could and connect with the right people to be able to understand the industry first, understand where I could, bring value, and understand that, I was the one in control. I was the one guiding everything. Even when, I wanted to do a training and the company that I was working for didn't want to pay for it, I took the initiative to pay for my training, because at the end of the day, it's about me. It's about what I want to accomplish. It's about where I want to be in this industry, and keep pushing, because sometimes we just let everything and we're waiting, and I've seen that a lot when I've worked in some company in when I was working in that. Since we're talking about Africa, is that we're waiting for the company to do everything. We're waiting, especially us women, we're waiting for those promotions to come to us. But then they're not coming. They're not coming. Nothing is happening, and we get frustrated, and we don't go anywhere. So we need to understand, as you need to understand as young professional that your career is in your hand, and you need to work to get where you want to be, and you need to get to to make those connections that are important for you to bring you where you want to be, because it's the jungle out there. I mean, and I've worked internationally. It became even more difficult for me when I got out of Africa, because then You have to find your place. I was coming from a very small country in Africa. I mean, in Gabon, there's only 1 million, people. I was the first petroleum engineer woman working for a non-French company. So it was really hard. I had to prove myself. I had to find my place. And I didn't do it alone. I had to strategize for that. And I had to identify, those opportunities, even when the challenges were many. I had to identify those challenges in front of me and really, go through it and bring along, and connect with the right people I had, because, since it's a very male-dominated, industry, I couldn't find some women to mentor me. I didn't hesitate to go to my male colleagues, and they've been instrumental in everything that I've done to really guide me and to really help me to go to the next level as far as my career was concerned. So that's really the message that I want to push here for, all the young professionals that are listening. It starts with you, and you have to dream big, because nobody is going to come and bring and dream for you. You have to dream big. You might feel like you don't have the skills, or you're a minority or whatever. It doesn't mean anything. You can learn, you can push yourself, and with everything that is available right now, it's even more, it's easier for you. You have the internet, you can access people outside your country, and ask them to help you and to guide you, because we need you. We need we need you to get the right skills to bring this industry to the next level, and also make sure that the oil and gas industry brings solution locally to African, and it can only be done by African themselves. They have to lead, the effort. And you are the next generation. You have, you actually have role models, African in the diaspora everywhere. You're not like me, where I had to search for, anybody to be able to guide me. So you have those role models. Go to them, connect with them, and ask, where you ask questions and ask them how they did it. Because if they could do it. If I could do it, you can do it. That's definitely, I have no, I don't doubt it. So it's just a matter of having the right mindset, a matter of understanding, what are the key problems that we have. I mean, there's, we talked about energy poverty, we talked about different other things. And we're also working a lot in different countries on local content. So we have to really, you have to really be involved and understand what are the gaps, and where you can, bring your expertise, where you can bring your knowledge to be able to bring this sector to the next level, and make sure that it is sustainable and it is solving problems locally in Africa. Nobody is going to do it for you. Nobody is going to do it for you. You have to be involved. You have to ask. You have to understand what's going on, and get, like I said, the experienced people, or people who have different skills from you, to complement what you bring, and make sure you actually solve those local problems that's going to help us as African, and help the African economy to thrive. Because without that, it's just going to be very difficult. I know it's a difficult time, especially when we talk about conventional oil and gas. I mean, it's been years since we've been struggling, but there's a market in Africa, and African has to show that they can actually create this market that everybody wants to leave, because everybody's going towards renewable, and really be there and drive it. So I'm just going to stop here. 5 minutes is really short, but that's the message that I wanted to push today.
Thank you very much for your wonderful, wonderful discussion. I hope we are all learning from her experience and the challenges she faced and what she did to continue remaining relevant in the industry. So I'd like to welcome Professor Damilola. Professor Damilola, we would like to just invite you with this question. From your outstanding achievements in various institutions, kindly advise our youth and the mentees on effective networking skills and ideas, especially with the challenging times of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, thank you very, very much. And congratulations to you and the team for organizing this important event. I've enjoyed the discussions by the previous speakers. I think these are important times. And the good news is that everyone is facing the pandemic. So there is no expat. The whole world is at the same level. But another good news is that everything is up for grabs. You know, Africa can take the lead. There is no professional in managing the pandemic, so we are all, I think, on the same level for the very first time or for a long time. You know, so what that means is that we should make the most of the opportunities that the pandemic provides. You asked me about how to network. So I'll talk about that then. And I'll start with this story. I noticed when I was a student, and I've said this story before, when I was a student, I noticed that I would go for conferences, energy conferences, and then you'll find the speakers, like the keynote speaker we had today, the very eloquent speakers, and you have the general counsels and all of them there. And I would go to them and say, "Good morning, sir, please, can I have your card?" And they would give me their card and say, yeah, feel free to stay in touch. But then after the conference, I would write to them and they would never reply, you know, so they would never reply. And it got to me, I started getting so worried, you know, because we would have a discussion and they would just never reply. So I spoke to my supervisor to show you how it troubled me. I spoke to my supervisor about it to say, you know, why is it that these guys never reply? And he told me something. He said, because they have nothing to gain from you. You know, he said, everyone wants to connect with someone that can solve a problem for them. You know, if you're going to them to say, "Good morning, sir, you know, I like you, sir," or "You are the best, sir," you know, you're not relevant to their life. So he said, the key to networking is that when you go for a conference, have a real positive discussion and identify what you think you can bring to them as well. Mentoring is a two-way thing. It's a two-way street in which, as you're talking to them, you know, they are telling you, "Oh, this is what I do. I'm a general counsel." And you're asking them questions like, "So how do you take care of your internet presence, for example? How do you get your job and your things online?" And maybe he says, "Well, I don't really know much about online." And you tell him right there, "Oh, I'm going to send you an article about going online. You would find it very useful. I read it and I found it very useful." Now that person is expecting something from you. And so if you email them with that article, they would reply. And I tried it the next conference. So I would go there and say, "Oh, sir, have you read anything about the African oil and gas? You know, do you know Nigeria is very good in oil and gas, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm going to send you an article about African," and then I would do that. And they would really reply. So that taught me something, that we should never approach mentoring as if it's just from the gaining perspective. I'm going to tap a lot from this guy. That person also, nobody's perfect. That person also needs something. He's also looking for something. And in the business world, it's all about solving problems. So we should see ourselves as problem solvers, as people who have ideas. And I think, as the keynote speaker said, don't think of yourself as someone that has nothing to offer. You do, actually, especially in a pandemic constrained world. You have a lot to offer in terms of research. You have a lot to offer in terms of analysis, in terms of ideas. A lot of people out there that I've met in different parts of the world, they don't know anything about Africa, you know, doing business in Africa. They are looking for this information. They don't know anything about, you know, what it means to get a license in Nigeria. You know, they want to know. And so when we see ourselves as very strategic, as very important, then we can have the right sort of conversations that can lead us to adding value to a global community.
Thank you very, very much for your wonderful conversation on networking. So I think now we have developed a proper strategy on how to network, not just being reactive, but putting something on the table so that you are also relevant to whomever it is you're approaching. So thank you very much, Professor Damilola. So we will move to Miss Insaf. I think now she is ready. Miss Insaf?
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the invitation to participate in.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, I will guide you.
Africa.
Hello, I will guide you with a question. So from a recruiter's perspective, are there any emerging skills that recruiters are currently seeking currently? What advice would you give to the current students, the recent graduates and aspiring individuals on how to place themselves in seeking job opportunities in their career paths?
My name is Insafa and I work in University of Cape Town. One of the shortcomings of mentorship is that we almost hone in on almost information dumping on one single person. And when this happens, it exposes one to various degrees of vulnerability. Sometimes
Jocelyn, I think her network is really
bad. Yes. I think we've lost her. Miss Insaf? Hello? Okay, sorry, we can't.
I
think we can.
I was saying, it seems the data gremlins are interfering in a wonderful brief presentation I had planned. And as I was trying to explain, when we identify mentors, we identify a single person that we share extensively with. And one concept that might be worth sharing is this idea of having a board of directors that can administer.
Sorry, I think we are losing her. Probably we could try and get proper internet. Then we can we start with Mr. Festo Bright as we connect your internet?
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Festo, for joining us. So your question would be guided as a strategy professional. How did you position yourself in the oil and gas industry, and what advice would you give to our aspiring mentees on how to keep up with the trends in this sector?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Apologies, I'm multitasking at the moment. I literally had to quickly change location so that I could have some quiet and take, and participate. And also like to say, well done to Victoria. You're doing a great job, and well done to the whole team. So yes, for me, I would say it starts with positioning. It starts with packaging. And packaging is a very popular expression, in West Africa and Nigeria. And basically what that means is, how do you address who you are as an individual? So for me, I would say you first of all need to understand who you are. What are your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities and the threats available to you as a person? Because at the end of the day, we're almost nothing more in terms of resources than human capital, human resources. So what are the unique qualities that distinguish you from another person? So for me, I found that I started my career in banking, and I was a teller. If anybody knows anything about being a teller, with all due respect to the practice and the profession, Mr. You can see it there, it's not something that you feel very challenging, challenged doing. You wish to have more. I mean, I joined this bank, they put us on a 2-month program. It's an international bank. And then I felt hard done by after having been sent to cash and teller. But then I dressed the way I saw myself. And there was this person, this individual who is a mentor to me today, who saw me and knew that I was out of place. He kept on seeing this teller who wore, sometimes a 3-piece suit, had the pocket squares, looking like, he's a marketing guy. And if you know anything about marketing in banks, it's more funky, it's more interesting, and sometimes it can be more intellectually stimulating. So he just, approached me one day and just asked whether I was happy on the job. And then the answer was no. So I positioned myself, so to speak. I knew that I am better than this. So I never allowed myself to remain within the confines of the environment that I had been placed within the organization. And I think that's one thing that will stand you out. You have to understand who you are. I knew where my strengths, really were. And obviously, it's, you keep on learning as time goes on. But for me, it was about positioning and packaging. I knew that, after, subconsciously, let me put it that way, because I wasn't that mature then. I kind of knew that to some extent, you really need to be better than, than this. And that really helped me, to move on in my career. So that was the beginning. I decided again that I wanted to do an oil and gas MBA. Initially it was a finance MBA. And then I decided, okay, the next best thing, I couldn't, do the finance MBA because plans changed. And then I decided I wanted to do an oil and gas MBA. And then I found, out about the University of Dundee. I went there, did the MBA, came back to Nigeria, started a business. Before I left for the MBA, but I went straight into the business and I was doing consulting till I got my present employment, which is with a government-owned agent, company. So for me, it's about, I would just want to leave, the candidates with those thoughts about, your positioning, your packaging, and then obviously your SWOT. You really need to understand where you are. I think it's George Bernard Shaw that said the worst form of knowledge is false knowledge. So what do you know about yourself? I think I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much, Festo. Thank you for your time that you have taken from your busy day to address us today morning. Okay, then now I think we're going to move to Miss Insaf. I think now her connection is proper. Miss Insaf?
Jocelyn, I see she's offline, so we can start with the second session.
Okay, no problem. Fine. So I can see from the Q&A sector, there's a question. There's just one question. This is from Magaji. The question is based on what are the required skills the young Africans need to possess in order to make headway in the energy and environment sector?
I think Mr. Ayo can address that.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Omondi. Maybe soon you'll be doctor, but I think the required skills, it goes with everything, whether I would say you got to be technically and commercially savvy. Do not underestimate. Let's face it, most of the people who today end up becoming directors, CEOs, managers, a lot of them have a technical background. That helps. And I think Prof and all the lawyers in this panel, we lawyers tend to think we You know, we deserve it. We should give us a pat in the back. But I think with all honesty, in this sector needs more technically and commercially minded people in order to really drive this forward. There is most of the negotiations I have done, whether it is PSCs, whether it is gas agreements, whether it is farm in, farm out agreements, I end up consulting a lot with a commercial team whom for some other times I have to look at them and bring them in from the UK or the US or within Africa. And now I have a big network of people whom I can always call. So I would really emphasize, get the technical skills that are needed, whether it is engineering, whether it is geology, whether it is some of the, I would say engineering, geology, and even some of the medical skills, which, because they do need a lot of medical professionals within the sector. I bet also the commercial skills are really, really important. I tell you this, most of the commercial transactions that are being done, whether it is working for a state company, whether it is working for a private company, we really don't know sometimes what we're doing. So being able to get in that room, understanding the numbers, understanding that, it would really help you as a young person coming up in the industry to be able to compete.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayuk, for answering that question. There's another question from Hope. She's curious to know, what is the future of nuclear energy in Africa? I think this address it to Professor Damilola.
Future of nuclear energy. Well, it's like every other form of energy, it requires a lot of assessment. And I think if we want to be sincere with ourselves in Africa, we have to be very careful and learn from the mistakes or the errors that we've made in addressing all other forms of energy, especially oil and gas, you know. And it worries me personally that if African countries that have not been able to manage oil and gas then move to nuclear, you know, with the potential challenges, environmental, social challenges that might arise, then we might be sitting on a keg of gunpowder. So I think we need to be, it's a real question of be careful what you wish for. So while of course a lot of countries have made progress in nuclear energy, I think we need to assess our readiness in terms of legal preparedness, social preparedness, and economic preparedness as well before moving to nuclear. But of course, you know, I think it's just about drawing the right lessons and putting the right legal and institutional frameworks in place to avoid those doomsday predictions.
I would tend to disagree with the professor a little bit on this. I think nuclear does have some potential, but let's face it, we broke. We don't have money. Most of the nuclear projects, they require billions of dollars to get done. It is cleaner than oil and gas. It is cleaner than even renewables. But the truth of the matter is that if you look at most of the nuclear that is being put around in Africa, you don't have small scale nuclear programs. And I think Professor would agree with me when you look at LNG on that side, for example, if you had small scale LNG for going around Africa, you would do a lot to domesticate things. Problem is that most of the nuclear projects that are being pushed around Africa, they are huge, massive projects that require 12 to 15 billion dollars of investment, and there's nobody to read. There's no African state can put up 12 to 15 billion dollars in investment. South Africa tried it with the Russians. It was a big one with Rosastorm and everything. It failed. Kenya is looking at something with IFTEC right now. It's really not going very well. Ghana has really been able to put something really good on the nuclear side. They're working on some great frameworks, but at the end of the day, there's really not much money for that. Congo is really looking at nuclear right now to see how they can power some of the mining deposits they have out there, to see if that could work. Great, but you know, Congo and its history with the Inga project, it's not been able to get it done. But strategically also, you have to look at how these nuclear agreements are structured. You need what you call the ABC agreements, which gives, like the United States would have to sign a treaty with an African country that can require you to use these nuclear reactors to power for energy. Then when you look at that, you start seeing that only South Africa and Egypt have those agreements in place. The rest of the countries, nobody has it. So there is a future, but you have to look at small scale, but it's a lot of money that needs to come in. Sorry, Professor, I do agree with you on everything else.
Yes, I agree with the points made as well. I think you're very correct. I do a lot of work in the Middle East, and you see that very recently, the UAE just launched the Baraka nuclear power plant, and like you said, it's a lot of money to set one of these things up. So, and again, it ties to the point of whether, I mean, even though it's promising, with the many other challenges that African countries face, you realize that our long-term energy needs would really, we can find those solutions in terms of small and micro grids and small scale generation at the community and local levels, and so that's where it comes. It's like saying, when people talk about those grand clean technology projects, I tell them, why don't we start small? Why don't we be realistic in our projections in terms of trying those homegrown solutions? So it's and that's in line with what you said about the money. So money speaks every time, right?
Thank you very much. So I encourage the rest of our panelists to answer most of the questions on the Q&A section, but I will just ask one more question from Geoffrey Nyamisi. This is also directed to Mr. Ayuk. Geoffrey asks that, is there an African Energy Chamber membership program where the newbies in the industry can participate? And does Africa Energy Chamber have short training programs for non-legal students?
Yes, and the chamber does have programs for non-legal students. Actually, we don't even want lawyers. I think lawyers are troublemakers, so keep them away. It's that's what happens when you run a law firm. Okay, you start hating lawyers yourself. You walk in this room and then they all kick you around. But we do, and one of the key things which actually we are looking at next year is actually to expand, to bring in groups like Aemi and work with them. It is really important what my sister Muriel said in the beginning, to build this grassroots network of young Africans for energy, and these groups will drive them. So part of what we are looking at doing, as much as we want to get more people, whether it's individual members, from next year, we're embarking on a program where we want to finance and sponsor groups like Aemi who have a closer network, closer connection to drive this, because we can't do everything ourselves. And I think that's always what sometimes we make the mistakes when you lead organizations or movements. You have to create and support regional groups and local groups to be able to deliver on the aspirations of our people, because they become the first contact. They understand the issues in different communities. And again, I know most of you have heard this 2,000 times, Africa is not a country, so when you localize it, then people start dealing with local issues themselves. Yes, big issues we could deal with, but our problems are more local and than just talking about we're looking at something. So whatever support we can do, we will do. We do have mentorship programs, and We're pulling people left and right from the industry. And I'm already stealing some people here. I am going to be calling Prof. I'm going to be calling Feso and Victoria and my sister Muriel to come on in and pick up a few people and help them. Because I think at the end of the day, as I think Prof's talked a lot about that mentorship, we want to be able to give on both sides and definitely reach out and really find ways to help. And that's what the chamber is trying to do. But we have to connect with each other, and we have to bring people up, because we all know, like Prof's story is a great story. We all know what it takes to get in and what it takes to have somebody hold your hand and really coach you to get there. So whatever we can do, we don't have all the ideas. We welcome new ideas. Let's find ways to work together, and let's find ways to really bring more people in and inspire one another.
Thank you very much. So just to end this session, I can see many questions are asking on the current energy transition. I would refer you to Dr. Victoria's YouTube channel, where there are very many expert opinions, and also her books. You will find a lot about the energy transition and different opinions. So please follow her. And for the books, I think she's also going to refer you how you can get access to the books. So I'd like to welcome my colleague, Aili, to lead the second session. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone, especially to our panelists. I hope everyone can hear me. My name is Aili Shiama, and I'm the Deputy Director Representative for Aemi Namibia, and I'll be in the second session. So in my session today, we're going to have 4 speakers. The first being Dr. Melba Wasuna, who is the External Affairs Manager at Base Titanium Limited. Second speaker being Mr. Dugald Hammerschlacht, the Principal Petroleum Economist at NAMCO. Third speaker being Professor Pablo Ferreira, who is a professor at the Universidad del Salvador in Argentina. And our last speaker being Dr. Carol Nakli, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Crystal Energy UK. So just to start off with our first speaker, Dr. Melba Wasuna.
Yes, Aili.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Melba Wasuna. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. I would just like to give you the floor. And your question is just basically, given your extensive track record in the industry, what inspired you to join the sector, and how did you actually end up in your current position? Could you just advise our youth how they can go about navigating their goals and vision?
Okay, well, thank you. I came into the sector using the academia route. Like NJ, I had this burning human rights spirit and wanted to do my part to save the continent. As many of us do when you're a lawyer, when you start into law school, you're really driven by a passion for justice. Then you get into law school and you realize, oh gosh, what is this all about? And then you get into the working world and you realize that a lot of the human rights lawyers end up in NGOs. And so for me, it was a question of, how do I want to do this? And then I was interested at that point in time, there was a lot of work being done into the field of business and human rights. And I truly believe that corporations are the ones that can lead the revolution in as far as observation of human rights are concerned. I know that sounds a bit contrary, but it's true if you think about the kinds of rights that corporations support. So all of us here are enjoying the right to work. You enjoy the subsidiary rights under that. So how do we harness this? And I wanted to particularly understand the extractives industry and how it can advance human rights, how it negates human rights, and what we can be able to do about that. And so then I did my doctorate in Australia and decided to come back home to do my part. What drove me was I didn't want my daughter one day to ask me, what did you do? And I'm talking about how I was working in a fantastic country and I did all these things. And but what did you do for the continent? So I came back very quickly to be able to answer that question, do my part, and then we see what else the world has got to offer. And this landed me first in the judiciary. I came in after doing a doctorate, and I came in to volunteer. Please underline volunteer, because volunteership has got zero shillings or $0 to it. You instead earn in knowledge and a lot of these things. And I think we've got quite a few volunteers on this platform who would understand what I'm talking about. And so that taught me a lot of lessons, because I wanted to volunteer and so that I can be able to understand. I had not been in Africa since I'd been 18 years old, and I came back at 30, and I wanted to understand not just the sector, but the psyche. What is it that is driving people to make certain decisions? And sometimes to be able to do that, you need to be able to build a platform and not necessarily just fit into a particular position. So I went into building a platform. I had conversation with a university which offered me a platform to start off a research center in extractives. And when I started off the research center, it's Strathmore Extractives Industry Center, I didn't know a single person. Remember, all my contacts before I came back to Kenya were the ones I had in high school, who had all ventured into different things. There was no godfather. There was nothing. It was just, and then the sector was new in Kenya. Oil had just been discovered in 2013, 2012. So you're coming in, even the word extractive, people couldn't define it. So I came in, but I had the drive, because again, I wanted to understand. And one thing that was very clear to me is there's two ways you can go about making your way in the sector. One, you can try as hard as possible to get a job, which is what most people do. You go to university, you get whatever skills that you have and whatever paperwork that you need to, and then you come back and you hope that somebody will offer you a job that you're interested in or that advances your skills. And the reality is that that rarely happens when you, and a lot of you I know would know, when you've done your wonderful master's degrees and have come back home, you realize that the sectors are very small. And everybody knows each other in the sector. So you are coming in as a newbie. And as much as you and your parents are extremely ecstatic about that degree in law, in energy, that's good for you as a family. In reality, in the sector, it is so small and nobody knows you. So where do you start? And so the research center gave me the second option, a platform, okay? So I did not go for a job, I went for a platform. Now this platform, there's nothing that comes easy or free. The terms that I had with the university was start the research center and pay yourself. Now I asked myself, pay myself from where? I have 0 grants, 0 courses. I had to figure it out, but they gave me a platform. They looked at my papers, they said, they saw the drive and they said, let's go. And so for 2 years, I did not earn a single paycheck, but I had a platform. And that platform is what introduced me to Professor Damilola. He didn't know me from a bar of soap. I emailed him, hi, I'm Melba. I'm from Strathmore. I see you have an OGES institute in Nigeria. Can you partner with me? By the grace of God, something caught his heart and he said, sure, what would you like to do? This same platform is what introduced me to Mirail. She didn't know I'd been following her on LinkedIn for so long. And I wrote to her again, just, hi, this is me, I'm trying to do this. And you quickly come to realize that when you've got a platform, there are so many people who are willing to step in and to help you. Because when you're giving out, I think one of the previous panelists had said, when you're giving out, you're also getting something back. So it wasn't always a question of asking, can you do this for me? It was, how do I create value for these people that I'm asking for? And a lot of the people who we deem have made it are honestly looking for an opportunity to share what they have and their journeys. And more often than not, most of them will not ask for a coin back, just ask for your professionalism, your honesty in dealing with them. And again, through this platform, I got introduced to NJ. I'm seeing NJ for the first time. He has no idea that people had been referring me to him for a long time. NJ, so I've been stalking him. in a in a way, finding out about his journey and how he built Centurion. And that was amazing for me, because then you've got all these people, because sometimes when you hear names like Professor Damilola, and then you got NJ, head of Centurion, my gosh, you think everybody's 60 years old, 65, and then they show up in a picture and you go back and ask yourself some very serious questions because they look like they're your age, and you start asking yourself, where have I been? But it was a point of growth for me, okay? Because I chose a platform that didn't have financial rewards back in the short term, but I could build my social capital because nobody knew who I was. All I had was what was in my heart, what I knew I could do and deliver. And then recruiting, I learned the power of working with like-minded colleagues. So because my research center was new, in a new research area in the country, I got people from Dundee, Aberdeen, who had finished their master's program, were coming back to Kenya, expecting people to open up their arms, and then they came back and they realized the sector is really very, very small. Came back through, came through the research center. And at that research center, what happened? All I did was, we have voluntary opportunities. If we get a grant that is income, depending on qualifications, you will be a researcher, you will be this and that. And that's how we started growing. And that journey, again, taught me how to look at things from two ways. So for my advice to young folks is, and not so young folks, doesn't matter what period you are in your career, every 2-3 years, go back and assess yourself and ask yourself, what are you interested in? Because sometimes there's a level of frustration. You can get into your dream job and then you realize that you're going to be there for 30 years.
Dr. Wasuna, thank you so much.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I'll answer questions again.
Informative points. Just to quickly close off what you said, do you have any last words that you would like to tell the youth? Just a quick close off.
My advice would be network with like-minded colleagues and decide what platform and review it every 2 to 3 years. Would you like a job? Would you like a platform? See what sings to your heart and what you'd like to go for, and sink into it. Doesn't matter what anybody else says.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wasuna. I'll now be handing over the platform to Mr. Duchald Hammerslash.
Yes, thank you, Aili. Thank you, everybody. So I'm Aili's countrymate. I'm from Namibia. I am not a doctor yet. I'm an energy economist by training. Yeah, so
thank you so much, Mr. Duchald Hammerslash. As previously stated, he is the principal petroleum economist at NAMCO in Namibia. And I would just like to ask him, like, having served in various capacities over 20 years, how did your earlier career choices lead you to where you are now? And what advice can you give to the youth of the importance of career planning?
yeah, thank you, Ali. I'm what is called a first timer. I think many people would call me a first time. I was the first one, as some of the getting a degree, finishing school, doing all of that. I was the first economic planner in what we call regions in Namibia. And as such, I was given the task of planning, management, maintenance of electricity distribution. I had to set prices, I had to work on selling electricity. Doing that resulted in engaging with the regulator, engaging with the one power supplier that we had to fight to get low prices for my people. So I started as a social economist doing economic planning, project management, all of that for the regional council. So at a certain point, I reached what is called a glass ceiling. I was a director in government But where do you go? You're 36 years old. What do you do? So as an economist, I looked at what is the trends out there. And then now I'm going to steal something from Victoria. I was doing the lamppost thing. What was very much topical in Namibia at the time was the small vial of oil that was found by HRT. And I thought, okay, let me specialize in energy. And then I went to Dundee, as many of my compatriots here. So when I got to Dundee, people were asking me, are you African? So I'm African, 100%. And that was one of the very funny questions that I got at Dundee. And then the lecturer started, can you help us translate some of the questions from your colleagues? Because they did not have an ear for an African vernacular. So I enjoyed Dundee, but as a challenge. But all of that brought me to be the first petroleum economist upstream in Namibia. But I'm still involved in energy planning. I was very highly involved in the energy policy that we developed. I will be involved in the new energy plan that we are integrated resource development plan. So from that, and that's how I came to be in energy, in oil and gas. But I call myself an energy economist, which oil and gas is part of. I keep my ear to the ground. I'm very much clued up on renewables and all of that, because Namibia has a lot of sun. So renewables are forcing they're trying to force the hydrocarbons out of the energy mix. But as an economist, you need to have the right energy mix for your country. As the doctor earlier said, in Africa, we need to have programs that respond to our needs. So that very much sets the scene on where I'm coming from. The importance of career planning is we need to specialize. Everybody says Africa doesn't have skills, which is a blatant lie. We have skills, which is I call them inputs. So you need to look what is the trends. And again, I'm coming back to this lamplight thing. The trends will say, okay, now it's renewables, it's the transition. But where is it all coming from? It's the basics of energy supply, energy security. So if you want to go into energy field, start at the basics. Ensure that you have a qualification that responds to the root cause or the root where everything starts from. Then you can follow the trends into specializing as a lawyer, as an engineer, as an economist. But once you have that basis, you can get off. What I would like to stress is also that we need to have the soft skills, which people don't tell undergraduate students. You are having the whole world of time. Focus on gaining a lot of skills in MS Excel. Project management, attend anything that you can on project management. Anything on research, go and work at your research centers. Go and work at Dr. Melba's research center for free, volunteer. Do courses on data analytics. We have Coursera, we have so many. One positive that we got from COVID, we have so many free online courses. Just do any of those, just build those soft skills, because that makes your analysis better. As my colleague from the energy chamber said, your analysis will drive your brand at the end of the day. Feso mentioned it. You need to set yourself, build your brand. It's what I'm doing now. I'm building my brand. Next year, year after, you'll hear, oh, Dugald, I know that guy with an unpronounceable surname. But don't worry, just throw it out the way you want it. So that's what I would like to put up there. And I live by a motto, né? Those who want will. It's very simple. If you want it, you'll do it. You'll find ways. My journey, I mean, I went to Dundee as a 36-year-old, moving into a whole new career path. Look at where I am. I'm the principal petroleum economist in Namibia. I'm the only petroleum economist in Namibia, which is another thing that Dr. Ayuk mentioned earlier, is the skill sets. Which companies have the economists in Namibia? It's only the NOCs, the multinationals. They don't have any of the economists in-house. We should be forcing them through local content. We have the skills, bring it back. But it needs, that conversation needs to be started, as Dr. Ayuk said. Talk about it, push it. Yeah, so I think I'm now like very close to the end, but practice and ask questions. I see many questions are coming in, but just practice, and I'll leave you with this. You need to show up, you need to step up. It's the only way you'll get it. Show up, step up. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Duhalt, for that very informative presentation. I just wanted to ask if Professor Pablo Ferreira is ready.
Yes, I am. Good morning, afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, I would like to mention I was supposed to be professor in India at the University of Petroleum and Energy, but unfortunately, due to the COVID, they terminated the program. Nevertheless, this gives you an idea that I am open-minded, flexible, and I have been something like all over the map. I have a very strong connection with Africa because although I am an Argentine national, I am a representative to Madagascar at the Permanent Court of Arbitration in relation to the United Nations Convention for the Law of the Sea. And I am connected to mining and deep seabed mining in particular because I wrote several papers and chapters on that activity. So in relation to the question in particular, they requested me.
Professor Pablo Ferreira, if I may interject, just hopping on what you said, as an academic in the field, in the energy sector, and so I would like to ask, what advice can you give to the youth that wish to pursue this career path? And having worked over
I was moving to that. Yeah, exactly. My advice is to the young scholars. The first thing that they should bear in mind is that wherever they are and wherever they go, they have to bear in mind that academics is a long-term returning activity. They will not feel they will not feel full until long time has gone by. This is the first thing that they should bear in mind. It's not like money, the money pathway. If you get the money pathway and you're maybe you get an MBA, and in 1, 2, 3 years you're already earning $200,000 US per year, for example, in MIT or so. If you get the academic pathway, it will take you at least 10 years to get at a good position somewhere in the globe. Secondly, you have to bear in mind, if you want to go the pathway locally or in your home country or in your home continent, that is Africa in your case, or not, because otherwise you will always be an alien. I have been an alien. I have been an alien in the United States. I have been an alien in Europe. I have been an alien in China. And when I was in China, I always recall running at the running court. and they were nothing but Chinese, taking photographs at me as if I were the New Yorker lion from Madagascar movie. I don't know if you recall the movie. Well, you will always be an alien overseas, and that is a reality you will have to bear in mind. The other very important thing for you is to plan the career. If you want to follow up an academic career overseas, you have to bear in mind which steps you are going to follow. Where you're going to take the bachelor's degree and the PhD degree, because Europe, they don't care about the JSDs. And the USA, they don't mind about any other country's degrees. So if you want to teach in the United States, you have to focus on any JD, mainly from an Ivy League university. Okay, I'm speaking out of experience. Even Berkeley and Stanford universities, they pinpoint at, I don't know, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, the top 10 Ivy League universities. Don't ask me why. I have my theories, but this is not the moment. And if you go to Europe, choose the most traditional European 4-year PhD universities, because that is the easiest way and most comfortable way to get into an academic position. When I say I am speaking out of experience, it is because I have already been shortlisted and interviewed twice in the United States, Oklahoma and Texas, 4 times in Europe, Instituto de la Empresa in Madrid, Aberdeen University twice, Queen Mary University London once, and it's always more or less the same issue. Why didn't you get the PhD in Europe? And the publishings. And I would like to close with this. It's also the publishings issue. Choose your publishings according to the career you're going to follow up. Well, Professor Dougal mentioned, and many other people mentioned, the most valuable asset you have is time. So time is limited. We have to choose our goals and our activities, and we have to choose what are we going to write and where we are going to publish. And well, bearing that in mind, choose your journals, choose your writings, and choose your activities. And I think I have answered to all of the issues. Ailey, any other questions?
Just as a closing remark, Professor, what, having worked in over 40 countries, what advice can you give to the youth to network effectively in this industry in academia?
Well, I follow up. I would like to catch up with a remark that a previous colleague mentioned. It's always giving and taking. I mean, they say mentoring is positioning above somebody. Well, it's not above somebody. I have been several years ago. I have an experience from a JSD, PhD student from Berkeley. She got in touch with me, and we are friends nowadays, and we exchange work every time we can. And there is an attendant here, Mr. Emenail, And he got in touch with me a few years ago, and we have been in touch since then. He finished his PhD, and every time I have something to provide to him, and I am sure that when the time comes by, he will do the same. It's always giving and taking, and we always have something to earn and learn. Okay, nobody, as far as we know, nobody is a living God here. So I'm more than open to receiving from whomever and to giving to whomever I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Ferreira. It was a very informative presentation. I would just like to ask if Dr. Carol is available.
I am. I just wanted to unmute myself. I always forget the mute button on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carol. Dr. Carol is a Chief Executive Officer at Crystal Energy in the UK. And I'm sure a lot of our panelists and attendees are familiar with her. And your question in this session is, as the Chief Executive of Crystal Energy, what inspired you to start your own company, and what challenges did you face in the initial stage? What advice can you give to the youth who are watching today who would like to build a unique brand like yours?
Thank you, Ali, and hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be involved in this wonderful initiative, especially that Aemi and Access to Energy, a group which I founded in 2007 to support the development of women in the energy sector, have partnered recently to support not just women, but all the youngsters and the ambitious, talented people in the energy industry globally. To answer your questions, you see, I wish I had a straightforward answer to tell you like it's 1, 2, 3. It's a combination of factors. But just to give a little bit of background to the listeners, I'm an energy economist by background. I started with economics and finance, and I did my PhD in energy economics in the UK. If you ask me then what were my career plans, I did not have an answer. Actually, I found the most frustrating question was when people asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? I could not plan. I mean, I did not know what I wanted to be, but I knew what I liked. I knew what my passion was, and I knew something, what excited me and what really got me very bored. So in that sense, I let my feelings and my interests guide me more than saying I had to take box 1, box 2, box 3, whatever they teach you in textbooks or whatever is given as advice. There's a lot of advice out there, but at the end, I had to listen to what was driving me from inside, because at the end, if I'm not doing something I enjoy, I'm passionate about, then I don't do a good job. But when I'm doing something that I'm really enjoying, even if I have to work for many, many hours nonstop throughout the week, throughout the years, then I would still do it with a big smile, because I would see it as a positive stress, not as a negative stress. When I started my career, I worked, first of all, as an academic. I was a full-time researcher at the University of Surrey in the Energy Economics Department. But at the same time, I got the great opportunity to be a special parliamentary advisor in the UK. And that was for me something of an eye-opener, because I'm originally Lebanese, and for Lebanese to be in the UK, what you hear first, that it was a bit struggle because you did not really have the European or the British nationality. But actually, there is a lot of misconceptions, wrong misconceptions, I would say, and perceptions out there. Because for me, what I learned about the UK system is that it's pretty much a meritocratic system. Of course, there is no such a thing as 100% perfect system, but definitely, at least compared to where I come from, which is Lebanon, the UK was something I admire, and that they have a meritocratic system. So I end up combining being an academic, where I was continued researching what I worked on in my PhD, but also being connected to the British Parliament helped me to understand the other side, or actually a new side that I wasn't familiar with, that is policy making and the kind of challenges that politicians, for example, face. So it was really an eye-opener. Then I joined the private sector. I worked for 2 major oil companies, first Statoil, which is now Equinor, and then Eni. And throughout this period, I was also offered full-time opportunities at international organizations. But at the end, I turned them down. And the reason was, and then I decided to leave my job with one of the oil majors because I felt that there was something more for me out there. I mean, I loved every single job I did because I learned something new, something I wasn't aware of before. But there was always something missing. I didn't feel quite fulfilled. And I am by nature a risk taker. I'm not scared of failing, you see, because I think you only learn from your own failures and your mistakes. So I am willing to take risks. Actually, coming from Lebanon to the UK was a big step for me because I did not speak any English. I had my very, very basic English because I'm French and Arabic educated. But you know, I'm not scared of trying. So there is this kind of drive, and that's where I thought, what could I do that would allow me to work with a wide range of stakeholders? You know, I don't want to work only in academia. I don't want to work only in, let's say, in the field of politics and policy making. I don't want to work only in the private sector. I wanted to work with a much bigger group that encompass all these players, including NGOs. At the same time, I wanted to maintain my links to academia, you know, for teaching, because I love teaching, and I want to do something that allows me to bridge between all these things together. And the answer was in starting my own business, where I wanted to run my own show. Now, of course, that was a major, major decision because, you know, you're just sailing in the dark. You don't see where the other side of the lake is. So you're really entirely sailing in the dark. You have to work hard on refining the purpose of your company, what kind of projects you're interested on, how to build a team. I mean, simple paperwork in terms of logistics, HR, you know, taxes. All this was something that you had to learn. So my learning curve, at least at the beginning, was very, very steep. And yes, I did have a couple of times like second thoughts whether it was the right decision to leave, you know, the private sector, a lucrative job, secured income, secured pension, prestige. Mind you, there's nothing prestigious about starting your own company because unfortunately, many people, I don't want to say most people, think of conference organizers. They love to take the people with big slogan behind them, you know, the big brand name. And then you drop those slogans and then you're just by yourself, which is, you know, you hold the name of a company that nobody heard of. So there was nothing prestigious about that. But this is where your character would come in, you know, the belief in your own abilities, the understanding that you would not, and the recognition that you won't have answers for everything. That would be a miracle if you had the answers for everything. That it's a learning process. It's an ongoing learning process, and you have to try different things. So we tried to partner, for example, with some people or with some companies. It did not work. Then we realized that this was not the route that we wanted to pursue. You work on some projects, you realize like, that's interesting, and perhaps I can expand more into this area. So step by step and gradually, and I'm honored to have a fantastic advisory board where the people there were instrumental in giving me feedback and guiding me and my team throughout this journey. And I have to say, I have absolutely no regrets that I made such a choice. It was tough, but it was worth it. And I haven't reached the end of the journey yet. Crystal Energy still has a long way to go, but I'm very happy to say that today we are internationally recognized business. We are getting clients from all over the world. And interestingly, they come to us. We don't have to do any aggressive marketing campaign to tell people, oh, come to us and believe to us. We have a reputation for quality, robust work. We managed to win bids where, you know, we were solicited to bid on some projects and we were easily competing with some of the largest energy companies in the world, energy consultancy companies in the world, and we won, even though I have to say that no one around me, whether, you know, friends, family, or colleagues, believed that we could make it. They were all telling me, oh, don't waste time, you're not going to make it, you're going to lose. But I kept on telling them it was like David against Goliath. And actually, there were several circumstances where we ended up winning despite the tough competition. And then in 2018, we were awarded Best Independent Consultancy Company in the UK. Recently I discovered that I was included in the list of the top executive female in the energy industry globally on the Oil and Gas Council list. So that was a very pleasant and nice surprise. But all along, I have to say, I want to add one more thing, that throughout all this, I maintained my connection with academia. So in addition to the commercial role, I also teach. I've taught at many universities and I still teach today. And I have to say that dealing with youngsters and answering their questions for me, gives me tremendous pleasure, because it's a different nature of doing things than just doing the commercial job.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carol, for that insightful presentation. However, I would like to move on to the question and answer session, but due to time constraint, I'll be taking 2 questions only. And the first question is, there is a question based on the attendee in question had already obtained his LLM in energy law and would like to pursue his PhD or MBA, and would like the panelists to comment on the PhD journey and how it helped their career, or how it's helpful in their career. I think maybe Dr. Melba or Professor Ferreira can answer that question.
Happy to give it a whirl. When I did my PhD journey, and this is something for you to consider, and anybody else who wants to do a PhD is a singularly lonely process. You are walking a journey that only you know where you're going, what you're trying to do. And while the rest of the world might be very impressed by your, well, especially family and friends might be very impressed by your credentials, as the sector that you operate in really cares more about skills. So you've got to balance. If your purpose into going for doing a PhD is so it can give you opportunities and jobs, I'd ask you to go back and rethink whether then the PhD is the right way for you to get those opportunities and jobs. If your purpose, mine was, I really wanted to understand what is this linkage between business and human rights. I did not depend on the PhD to give me a job. And indeed, it did not. Okay, I had to come out with whatever skills I had, use that title of a doctorate to open doors, but not come back home and say, I have a doctorate, hire me. Very few people, and even with that doctorate, people put you in a box. As soon as you have a doctorate, everybody thinks all you're good for is academia. Just go and teach students. Now, my personality and everything that I am, as I love to teach, but I didn't want that to be all that I wanted to achieve. So you have to be very clear about what do you want your PhD to do for you before you make that decision.
Thank you so much, Dr. Melba. That was a very good answer to this question. Due to time constraint, I think that we'll have to move on with the program. And I will have to hand over this session now to Dr. Victoria Nalule for our closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Riley. Thank you very much, distinguished speakers. It was on such a short notice, but you accepted to come, join us, share your stories with people. And I'm sure many people have been inspired, including myself, because I've been inspired a lot by Dr. Carol Nakla's speech, I must say. I look up to her a lot. I also recently started my own consultancy firm, and we do collaborate with her with respect to women in energy, because with Aemi, we have a different initiative focused on women in energy besides the mentorship. I do get inspired a lot by NJ Ayuk, because besides academia, I also want to start my own business. I need to make money. You know, you have to make an impact, but you also have to show your family that you're actually working. So I do have been inspired a lot by all the speakers, and I'm sure all the participants have been inspired. But in this session, I would like to make it a networking session so that we can get to hear from some of our participants. I see there are many, very many of them. So I'll just be calling on a few names. Joel Biarhanga, do you want to say a word? I know he looks up to Mr. Ayuk a lot. And when I told him I've invited him as the keynote speaker, he's like, oh, okay. So Joel, I would like to give you this opportunity to say hello. And I'll be promoting most of our participants. So Joel, just be first. And then Cynthia, I see Cynthia from the University of Dundee can also say hi.
Hi, Dr. Victoria. Thank you for giving me that shout out. Truly, I've enjoyed all the presentations. I'm sorry I won't be able to put on my video because I'm kind of in transit right now, but I've made it an effort to try and be inspired, and each and every speaker, right from our keynote speaker, whom I'm truly inspired by, and up to Dr. Carol, we're truly inspired, and we really thank you for sharing those tips with us. And you know, especially this last question that Dr. Melba answered about the PhD, because I'm kind of in that dilemma right now. I completed my master's in June, and I got an offer for a PhD in September, but I decided to put it on hold and rethink through each decision. I think that answer she gave me right now has kind of given me direction, because I know if I'm going in for the PhD, I'm not going into it for a job, but more for, you know, the opportunities that would come along with it, because I'm also interested in business. So I don't see how being a businessman with a PhD, you know, those are two conflicting sort of pathways. But thank you very much, and we're truly inspired, and we hope to get in touch with most of you as our mentors. And yeah, and thank you, Dr. Victoria. Hope more of these sessions will keep coming. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to make it very fast. Cynthia, you on? Can you say a few words? As she's preparing, I know there is Clovis from Cameroon. He has been following all my work. He supports us a lot, and he's also one of the mentors. Clovis, are you online?
Yeah, good day, Victoria. I'm online. Yeah, I'm there, and I would like to say something, if you allow me to do so.
Yes, please. Say a few words.
Like I said at the beginning of this program, I knew it was going to be very enriching. I want to extend sincere gratitude for what you're doing. Now, there's somebody that said that I've been a giant. I've been able to go far because I've sat on the shoulders of giants. I think I'm from the same country with NG Ayuk. What he has done for energy law in Africa is greatly inspiring. And I think he has walked us through his parcours, as we call it here in French. I've also seen Miss Tuleku Kema, and she told us to keep pushing and dream big. NGIU says we should believe in ourselves, and then we should face our demons and keep pushing. Professor Damidola says that it's important that you should learn how to build win-win relationships. Dr. Walker says that there's a place for Africans everywhere. Mr. Duga, he says, those who wait, those who want it will, and you need to show up. There's Dr. Nakle. I think she's a lady, but she inspires me more. She says, you only learn from your mistakes and your failures. That if I have my law firm, Keystone Tax and Legal, I know it's difficult at the beginning. You have to learn from your mistakes and failures. And then she says something, I am not scared of trying. We keep trying, from the fact that she was Lebanese and she had to learn how to speak English. And then it will be a miracle for us to think that we knew all. I think this was a very, very great platform. We have all learned, and we need to begin to load our guns to struggle to see how we can bring impact as young generation into the African energy and mining sector. I want to thank you particularly, and I think we are working in the background, and I'll always be there to support Aemi and work with others. Thank you very much, and then God bless you.
Thank you, and thank you for being our great supporter. I see Kenneth Nkomere. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I would like also to say something. I'm really, good afternoon to you, good afternoon to everyone. I'm really inspired by what we have discussed since morning to date. It reminds me when I completed my education, I was asking myself, what am I going to do that can help me keep on moving? Eventually, I was able to be employed, but later I left it. I started an NGO in Uganda. But now with this kind of discussions, I'm now gaining more skills on how to strengthen it. Even when I started it, I started hosting interns and training them. I'm gaining more skills on how I can strengthen the organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I see Ronald, your hand is up. Please do say a few words. And then Esther from Uganda, you can also say a few words afterwards. Please do raise your hand if you would like to say hello to our panelists before we close. We have like 5 minutes to go.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, good morning. I thank you. I thank Dr. Nare for the chance. And I was so inspired by Dr. Carol. She said, don't be scared to fall, because when you fall, you have the chance to know where you fell from. And here in Uganda, you know, when a baby is trying to stand and falls, you always sing for that baby to get encouraged to stand and walk. So kudos to everyone who advised us, the youth, because me, I'm more of IT. I'm a first track partner of Microsoft here in Uganda. So I wanted to hear more about energy and information and technology, how they work hand in hand. But I thank you. I hope more are coming up.
All right. Thank you very much. And Fezeka, I see your hand is up. You can start your words. If you're not speaking, please keep your mic on mute. Fezeka.
Afternoon, Dr. Naluli and the Aemi team. Thank you also for the panelists. It's really been an eye-opening listening experience. I was listening to what Mr. Yuk and Prof. say, and what caught my attention particularly was Mr. Yuk's emphasis on getting technical skills. I know we have a lot of academics on this panel as well. I did my undergrad and now finishing off my LLM, but before doing my LLM, I was in practice at a corporate firm. So what I'm really trying to get from the panelists is just to get some insight as to how to balance whether, as a young professional, you should begin getting more practical exposure at the beginning of your career, or should you actually satisfy a passion to pursue your postgraduate studies?
That was a question, I guess. And Dr. Karanakla, would you like to address that just in 1 minute, please?
Yeah, it's difficult to just summarize that in 1 minute, but at the end you see just where do you see your strengths is, you see, and build on that, whether in terms of selecting the focus that you want to work on, or whether you want whatever career you want to pursue, because we will all have to learn different skills over time, but you have to start from a core. What is this core? Like imagine a building. You need a certain main wall, main core, the cornerstone, and build on that. So this is the only advice I can tell you, instead of pinpointing something. And what's interesting in today's working environment is that this doesn't have to be A versus B. Sometimes you can ride more than one horses at the same time, and you can do it successfully. So just identify what is driving you most in terms of what is your strengths, because if you build on that, then you'll be able to stand out from the crowd. But if you just follow what somebody else told you to do, which doesn't really build on your own abilities and expertise and strengths, no matter how challenging the environment around you is, then I don't think you're going to get that far.
All right, thank you. I see Ayodeji. Would you like just a few words? You can post your questions on Q&A so that our panelists can respond to them, but this session is all about networking. Raise your hand if you'd like to just say a few words. Ayodeji.
All right, yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Victoria. I want to say a big thank you to you and to all of the facilitators of this event, and a big thank you to Mr. Yu for the groundbreaking keynote speech. I learned a lot from that, that it's quite important that we combine both our technical skills with our commercial skills, and then we also have to engage our critical thinking skills. And that was quite insightful for me, and I want to say I learned a lot on this program today from the range of speakers that we had. Now I say thank you. I hope this keeps coming up and we have opportunities to learn like this from these people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I also note Mr. Ayok said that their firm would be working with organizations like ours so that we reach out more to young people. So I'm sure we shall be bringing you more of these sessions. And also just a reminder, our team has already allocated to you your mentors. So get in touch with your mentors. And if you have any questions, you can always let us know. I see a hand from Geoffrey Nyasimi. Just 1 minute, please.
Yes, my name is Geoffrey Nyasimi from Kenya. Most of the discussions that I've had today are quite, encouraging, and from the technical point of view, my request was technically on 2 areas. Number one, as much as there are many individuals out there who are engineers, etc., there is this energy business development aspects that we should be looking at. For instance, the Nigeria-Kenya nexus, the Namibia-East Africa nexus, such kind of business development associations and also business development mentorship, basically to help individuals who are in other non-technical or non-legal fields to participate holistically in this sector. Another thing that lastly I'd love to say thank you about, and major thank you, is from Daktari from the extractive Baraza, just trying to appreciate and trying to understand the journey she undertook to bring that platform to whatever it is at this point is very, very encouraging. So Melba, thank you so much. And also Mr. NJ Anyuk, we hope to see a mentorship in business development on the aspect of both renewables and also on hydrocarbons. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I see Esther Agote. We're left with just a few minutes, so just be brief, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity and for the ability to be able to listen to the presenters. I have really been inspired by Mr. Dugan, the principal petroleum economist. I'm a petroleum economist myself, and I have had to step into big shoes of previous economists who left, and I'm being challenged. I'm finding myself to be the only person to be doing most of the petroleum economist work, and I'm looking forward to sharing supply and demand with you, sir, if that would be very possible. But I really appreciate the knowledge and the skills you've been presenting with us. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Esther. I see Emmanuel. Just be brief.
Thank you very much, Dr. Narle. Emmanuel Richmond from Cote d'Ivoire, a French-speaking country, taking actually an LLM in international mineral law and policy at the University of Dundee. I've been very inspired by the panelists from Gabon who challenged the language barrier to overcome in his position. And thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'm hoping to join Aemi soon. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I see Ahmed. Just be brief, please. Ahmed, if you're not ready, I'll go to Imelda.
Yeah.
Okay, Ahmed, yes.
I hear you. Hello. I greet all of you. My name is Hassan from Somalia.
Hassan, it's not good.
The panelist and very appreciated for this fruitful meeting. Thank you, all of you.
All right, thank you, Hassan. And Imelda? Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you so much, Dr.
Hello,
Victoria.
Victoria.
We
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
really appreciate. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Victoria. Thank you for putting all this together and for allowing us to hear of the journeys of these amazing people. I'm a great fan of Dr. Melba, and I really appreciate hearing about her inspiring story and the great stories of all the panelists. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Imelda. Mary Kibui.
Thank you so much, Dr. Victoria. I'm glad for this platform that you've given us. I've been looking for a research center in Kenya, and luckily through this platform, I've found Dr. Melba, and I'm happy for that. Thank you so much.
All right, and then Frida. Frida, if you're not there, we shall go to Patrick Mwonge. All right, then Ingrid.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like to say thank you for the organizers for such an opportunity. Thank you to our, thank you that you have already allocated us our mentors, and I'd also just like to encourage the mentees to keep a level of professionalism so that this program may continue. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then I see Carl, King Carl.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Victoria, and the various speakers. I think I've learned so much. I am from accounting finance, and I ended up doing my thesis in oil and gas and mining, and that's when I started following you, Dr. Vic. And I had some colleagues that were from Dundee that were working with me at Imani Africa, one of the policy think tanks. And since then, I've been following your works. And I think I've learned so much from this program. And I hope to learn so much more from the mentorship program. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we shall go to Tahani Ahmed. Tahani, if you're not there, we shall go to Zola.
Hi, hello everyone. I'd just like to congratulate for the initiative and thanks for all the panelists. It was a very inspiring session. I'm Zola and I am from Angola. I work in the oil and gas sector for the past 10 years and I don't have a law background or economist. I'm an engineer, a software engineer, and I'm recently just finished my master's in international management. So I'm moving to a more strategic position now. And I look for, I do think this is a great opportunity, not only for networking in the mentorship program, being mentored myself, and I think it's a great opportunity. And I look forward to share my experiences and to gain more experience from others as well. So thank you.
All right, thank you. I see Lezola from South Africa, if I'm not mistaken. Lezola, hi. And she has also been one of my followers and a follower of Aemi. So Lezola, what do you like to say?
Hi, Dr. Victoria and all the other panelists today. This was such a great session and thank you for putting all of this together. I'm actually Namibian, but I am currently in South Africa because I'm at the University of Cape Town, basically just finishing up my LLM degree in mineral and petroleum extraction in use in the following month. And yeah, this was such a great platform. I learned so much. Thank you once again so much. I have been following you, like you said, for a while now, as well as Dr. Nakale. I'm sorry if I pronounced the surname wrong. And of course, Professor Damilola, who I just want to say, if he's still here, that Prof, your book is absolutely amazing. And I would like to encourage everybody to get a copy of it if they can. I think I read Prof Damilola's book about 3 times, cover to cover, because it is amazing. Yeah, so just
thank you for that. Thank you, Lizola. Thank you so much. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I said at one point that I referenced you so much in my assignments and so forth that yeah, I started feeling a little bit guilty. But yeah, it's a great resource. So yeah, thank you for putting this together, Dr. Nalule. You have really become such an inspiration for me, and I know for many other young women that are entering this field. And I look forward to the program. I have been allocated my mentors. I look forward to going through the process and just learning more, and yeah, obviously attending more events such as this. Thank you once again.
All right, thank you very much, Lezola. And the book she was referring to, is it this one, the green one?
Yes, yes, it's that one.
Professor Damilola's book, get NJ Ayuk's book, and obviously learn more about our new concept of energy progression. Emmanuel, would you like to say a word? I see your hand is up.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Udo. I'm from Nigeria. Thank you very much, Victoria, for putting this together. I mean, it's been very insightful and a lot of knowledge sharing and learnings as well. And then for Dr. Carol, I mean, what an inspiring story. I followed you on Twitter. I mean, I was really, really inspired. And Victoria, just a pitch to you. I would like to anchor your Aemi Awards. So, because I have a background in marketing and I have experience in branding and marketing communication as well, and also a master's degree in energy economics. Currently work with a gas company here in Nigeria. So, I mean, we could always work together to put up Africa Aemi Award for the future energy leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Please get in contact with Ailey or Jocelyn Omondi. You will join our team. It's an open team for all young Africans to participate, get experience, and have something on your CV, but also to have the confidence to really contribute to the sector. I see Patrick Mwonge. Are you still there? Then we shall have a few closing remarks again. Patrick Mwonge? Okay, you're not there. Frida?
Hello, I'm there. How are you, Doctor, and everyone? I would also really like to thank everyone who has presented, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be part of this. It was a great experience. I've had very interesting remarks from panelists, and I'm looking forward to continue being part of this mentorship program. But I think I will have to chat with Dr. Victoria Nalule in private and get to know more about the organization of the organization.
All right, Patrick, I think we've lost you. And Frida, are you there? Then we shall have the closing remarks and end the session.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much, Dr. Nalule, for putting this together. And I also would like to thank all the panelists for their wonderful presentation. It was quite informative, and I really learned a lot. I recently submitted my final dissertation for an LLM, extractive industry law at the University of Pretoria. However, I live in Namibia. And I have I was quite struggling to understand or to get my feet as to how can I start or advance my career, seeing that now I have this qualification, although lack knowledge in the extractive sector. And I'm looking forward to this program, and I think it will really add value and just to help me to see how best I can find my feet Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Frida. So we've come to the end of our session. I thank all the panelists, all the distinguished speakers. You have inspired us. Thank you for taking time, for sparing time to talk to our youth, and also the mentees. Thank you for taking the first step, because at the end of the day, you really need to make that first step. You need to believe in yourself, believe in your abilities, and it's not always going to be easy, but well, we all have to try. And do not be afraid to reach out to people, because I know actually even most of the panelists, I've never met them in person, but I also stalk them. I see that these are people whom I can learn from. These are people whom our mentees can learn from. So I stalk them, I send messages persistently. I remember for Mr. Ayuk, I sent him a message on LinkedIn, like, I don't know how many times, just to get his attention, to be sure that he can at least come and speak to us. So do not be afraid, and also take chances. I always tell people to take chances. Don't be afraid of disappointments. We are all struggling, we are all hustling. So join the hustle, be inspired, but most importantly, work hard, because we can't make a difference if we're just sleeping in our beds. You have to work hard, you have to stand out, and also find other people to inspire and mentor, because we can all make a difference. So thank you very much, our panelists. Thank you very much, all the participants. A special thanks to our Aemi team for organizing this. Like I mentioned, this is an initiative with just passionate people, but you see, we try our best to invest our time, invest the knowledge, and also invest some little money to put things together. So have passion for what you have and be driven by that passion. This marks the end of our session. Bye-bye, everyone.